Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I kind of wanted to talk about my NICU experience with my second son. It can be a pretty scary thing, so I just kind of wanted to go over like our experience, what we went through, and yeah. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Okay, so I am still a little bit sick, but I really wanted to make this video. So where do I even start? Okay, so my son was born September 12th. I was scheduled for an induction on the 11th. I had called the hospital to try to get a room reserved. They ended up telling me that they had no room. So I was supposed to come in the next day. My water ended up breaking at like midnight or something like that. We ended up getting to the hospital like around like 2 a.m. And he was born that night at around 8 p.m. So I was in labor for quite a while. At the time when I first got there, I did like pee in the cup, you know, because they make you like take a sample. And there was like some stuff in my urine, which I was like, what is that? So apparently my son had a bowel movement, which don't quote me because I'm not 100% sure, but I heard that if that were to happen, it's kind of an emergency. They should try to deliver the baby already, because if they swallow it or get it in their eyes or anything like that, it can be bad for them. So keep that in mind. They had me in a waiting room for a while. And then finally they were able to make some room for us. So then we got into a room. So my labor was pretty typical, you know. I got the epidural, everything. I kind of was just expecting it to go the same way as my first son. It took a little bit longer, but I did only have him after 3 pushes. So it was a little bit easier as of that aspect. I mean, you know, any birth is pretty painful, so that's that. But after I had him, everything was okay, except for he had really low blood sugar, or I don't know exactly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like blood sugar, because I had gotten gestational diabetes a few weeks before I had him. And I feel like it was kind of already too late. I was trying to like monitor it and, you know, do what I had to do, but I feel like at the end of the day I didn't even find out till I was like 37 weeks. And so yeah, I had already been eating whatever I wanted the whole pregnancy. So he did have like really low blood sugar. They had him on like a sugar water IV, and yeah, that was sad. They took his like blood a few times because they were like, that doesn't seem normal. But other than that, that was like the only thing that was like concerned. He was born around 8 p.m. And around, I want to say it was about 3 or 4 in the morning. I will insert the picture here. I literally had to take a picture of him. I had just laid him down because I was gonna go to sleep because I hadn't slept. And I was like turning over, and I just wanted to check on him one more time before I went to sleep. And I noticed he was like turning purple. So I got pretty scared. I called the nurse in, and she was like, he's not breathing. So they took him. At the hospital here, we don't have a NICU. So it's just kind of like an extra incubator room for like emergencies. And then from there they fly them out, or, you know, things like that. So he was in there. I ended up falling asleep because I was just so exhausted. In the morning I woke up thinking, oh, he's okay, they're gonna bring him back in the room. I woke up and he was not there. Mind you, I only slept a few hours. So yeah, I got up, told the nurse what's going on, and she came and explained to me that he wasn't breathing, so they had to put him on oxygen, and he was getting seizures. And yeah, so he was getting seizures, and every time he was getting a seizure, he would stop breathing. So he was on an oxygen tube, but since they didn't have a NICU there, they had to send him out in an ambulance. They didn't fly him. They sent him in an ambulance, which was about a two-hour ride. So they sent him out around noon that day, and they put him in this big old incubator thing. I'll insert a picture here. And yeah, it was just like, for me, I was still kind of like in shock. But yeah, so they all took him. I ended up getting discharged. I went home. Well, I didn't actually go home. I had my grandma get me a few things, and then we left. I just got like the bare minimum. I was literally like wearing a diaper and PJs, and I was like, let's go. So we all packed up, we left. We ended up getting a hotel until we could get like a room situated, because it's not like a Ronald McDonald house. It kind of, but it's like through the hospital. So we ended up getting a hotel for a few days, for the first few days, while we figured out what was going on. There was no children allowed in the NICU, so it was just me and my boyfriend, and then my son stayed with my grandma and grandpa in the hotel. So once we got to the NICU, it was really like emotional for me. Like I couldn't stop crying, especially seeing him with all the wires and everything like that, which I'll insert a photo. It was so heartbreaking. Like I literally could not stop crying for the for the first week. Like I was just crying and crying and crying. And he was like having to get like MRIs and all these scans. So what they did eventually find out was that he had gotten a brain bleed. Somehow, some way, he got a brain bleed. And that was like irritating his skull, I don't know, inside, and which was causing the seizures, and the seizure was making him not breathe. So he was on the oxygen, they put him on a seizure medication, they put him on all these different things and these tubes, and like he had like a feeding tube because he couldn't really eat on his own. He did when he was in the hospital, but since he had all like these things hooked up to him, they just gave him a feeding tube just to make sure, you know, because he was on the oxygen and all this stuff. So he did have a whole bunch of stuff going on, which was so emotional. Once they were able to find the right dosage to give him of medication, he stopped seizuring. And he stopped having seizures, but he was not able to keep his oxygen up on his own at all and things like that. They had to make sure he would still like be able to eat on his own, just the basic stuff. So he ended up staying in the NICU for 3 weeks, exactly 21 days. He was in the like downstairs NICU where all the like babies are, like the tiny babies and stuff, for a while. Then they ended up moving him to a separate room with only one other baby, and then finally, once he was a little bit better, they moved him up to the top room, which is where that's the room where you're able to sleep with them in the same room. Unfortunately for us, we couldn't, but my grandma did, and bless her, because there's no way. If my son would have been able to stay with us, it would have worked, but at the time he was barely 1. It was like really a struggle. He's very loud and crazy, and yeah. So if it was just me and my boyfriend, like we would have stayed there, but like we had another baby, so we couldn't. So my grandma would stay there on the weekdays while their dad worked, and we would go up on the weekends and stay in like the Ronald McDonald house, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, so once he was upstairs, then children were allowed upstairs, just not in the downstairs area. So it was a lot. Like it was slow progress. Every day I would call like the doctors, like, is there any updates? Slowly the updates were getting better. And you know, the nurses there were all so sweet, bless their hearts. They were the sweetest ladies. you know, but it was very hard because he missed out almost a month of his life. And I know I'm grateful and blessed that he was only there for 3 weeks. There's babies that are there for months. And he was born 8/14, so he was the biggest baby in the NICU. Most of the babies, you know, are tiny. That's why they're in the NICU, because they're preemies, or micro preemies. And so everybody just loved him. They were just so sweet. He got his first bath there. You know, it was a lot to handle, I will say that. It was very emotional trying to recover from postpartum, and you know, just going from the shock to having a baby to just jumping straight into your baby being in the NICU and not even being able to be with your baby every single day. So it was a lot, and I wasn't really able to breastfeed how I wanted. I would like pump during the week and then take what I produced on the weekends. So yeah, but I just want to say, like, for all the NICU moms, like, you guys are so strong, because it is so, you just become an emotional wreck. Like, it's insane. And yeah, so if you guys are stressed out, just pray about it. All my family, everybody was praying for him every day. I was praying every day. I was crying every day. But it does get better. And I know that's not the case for everybody, but as long as you have faith, and you know what I mean, like, things will get better. But yeah, so pretty much that's all I really wanted to share. I didn't go too into detail because there's not very many details. I mean, like, every day was just kind of like a waiting game. But we are blessed that we got to go to a really good hospital. They were so sweet. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy this video, and it's a little more on the touchy subject, but you know, it's our experience, and not every pregnancy is the same, and not every birth experience is the same. I definitely didn't think anything, you know, that my son was gonna be in the NICU for almost a month. I just thought it was gonna be, you know, I have my baby and I go home. So yeah, and I don't know if it's like, I don't know, I don't want to blame the hospital where I had him, but I feel like they could have done more. But also at the same time, you never really know. And but also, he did have so many follow-up appointments. He had an appointment with a neurologist that took us like 6 months for him to get into. It was a lot of blood work, and after all that, they still never found out why that happened, the cause. But yeah, he did a lot. He went through a lot of trauma for being such a small baby, and he was on seizure medication until he was about 8 months. We slowly started weaning him off, and yeah, so he's been good since then. I don't know what triggered it, what caused it, what, you know, it's kind of just a mystery, but he's alive and we're blessed that he made it. So yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for the next video. I think the next video, guys, I'm gonna do is what's in my hospital bag. I have almost everything ready. I'm waiting on a few more things that are coming in tomorrow, and then yeah, my hospital bag is packed. I'll be 34 weeks tomorrow. I went to the 3D ultrasound and she was hiding. Well, she wasn't hiding, she was head down, flipped the other way, so she was only showing the back of her head the whole time. And yeah, so they told me she's dropped, she's head down, so now it's just a waiting game. She could come anytime now. So yeah, okay guys, well, thank you so much for watching, and I love you guys so much, and stay tuned for the next video. Okay, bye.